The afternoon sun was bright and warm when a red classic Mustang rolled down a quiet countryside road. The car looked old but powerful, its body shining in the sunlight. Behind the wheel sat Mr. Dale, a tall man with silver hair and tired eyes. He was a millionaire who owned one of the biggest tech companies in the city. Yet even with all his success, he looked restless. He had taken this trip to escape the noise of meetings and the pressure of money. The open road was his way of breathing freely. As he drove, he thought about his past. Years ago, he had bought this car when he was young and full of dreams. It had been his favorite toy until time and business took all his attention away. Recently, he had restored it, hoping to feel that same joy again. But as he turned around a bend, the engine gave a rough sound and then stopped completely. The car rolled to a halt in the middle of the road. Mr. Dale sighed and stepped out. The road was empty except for a few trees and a small wooden fence. He looked under the hood, frowning. The wires and tubes seemed fine, yet something was off. He had called his mechanic before leaving, but there was no signal here. While he tried to figure out what to do, a small voice came from behind. It was a girl, no more than 12 years old. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a small backpack. Her dark hair was tied in a messy ponytail and her eyes were bright with curiosity. "Your car stopped working, sir?" she asked softly. Mr. Dale looked up, surprised. "Yes, it just shut down. I think the engine's power module failed." The girl walked closer and said, "I can take a look if you want." Mr. Dale almost laughed. A 12-year-old fixing a high-end Mustang sounded impossible. "That's kind of you, but this is a special model. I don't think it's something a kid should try." But the girl smiled calmly. "I help my uncle fix old machines. Maybe I can try. If it doesn't work, no harm done." There was something honest and confident in her tone. Mr. Dale hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside. "All right, go ahead. Let's see what you can do." She put down her backpack and carefully opened the hood wider. She studied the wires with sharp focus, her fingers moving as if she already knew what to look for. Mr. Dale watched silently, half amused and half curious. After a few minutes, she asked, "Do you have a small wrench or screwdriver?" He handed her one from his glove box. She adjusted a loose wire, cleaned a connector, and then bent over to check the power relay. Her movements were steady and confident. She tapped the metal gently, listening to the sound it made. "This part is wrong," she said finally. "It's not broken, but it's out of balance. The energy from the main coil isn't flowing right. If I move this wire and change the angle, it will work." Mr. Dale blinked. "How do you know that?" "I can hear it," she said simply. "When machines don't talk right, they make a sad sound." He had no idea what she meant, but before he could ask, she finished tightening the connection and stepped back. "Try starting it now." He climbed into the driver's seat, turned the key, and froze. The engine came to life instantly. Not just working, but running smoother than before. The sound was strong and even, as if the car had just been built fresh from the factory. Mr. Dale stepped out again, his eyes wide with surprise. "What did you do?" "Nothing special," she said with a shrug. "It was just confused. I fixed the flow." He looked at her in disbelief. He was sure even his engineers could not have done it so fast. "What is your name?" "My name is Mira," she replied, smiling shyly. "I live nearby with my mother." Mr. Dale nodded slowly. "Well, Mira, you just fixed a car worth more than most people make in a year. Do you like machines? I love them," she said. "They're like puzzles that want to be solved." Her words made him smile. There was something rare about her way of thinking. She spoke about machines as if they were alive. As they talked, Mr. Dale learned that Mira often helped her neighbors repair things. Radios, washing machines, even old tractors. She had learned by watching videos and experimenting with broken parts. She had no teacher, only curiosity and patience. Mr. Dale found himself fascinated. Here was a child who could see through a machine as if it were an open book. He could not stop wondering how she had done it. "Would you like to visit my workshop sometime?" he asked suddenly. "I have many machines you might enjoy seeing." Mira's eyes widened. "A workshop," she repeated. "That sounds amazing," he smiled. Then it settled. "I'll come back tomorrow and take you there if your mother agrees." She nodded happily, then stepped back as he closed the hood. He started the car again just to make sure. The sound was perfect. As he drove away, he looked into the mirror and saw her waving. For the first time in weeks, he felt truly curious about something other than business. That night, back at his small rented house, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about how she had described the engine's sound as sad. No one had ever said anything like that. He thought of the confidence in her voice, the way she handled tools with skill far beyond her age. He opened his laptop and looked up the car's blueprint. The part she had fixed was a prototype his own company had designed. It had been slightly unstable, but only a handful of people knew that. The fact that a 12-year-old had fixed it by instinct made no sense. He ran tests on the car again the next morning. Everything checked out perfectly. The adjustments she made even improved the power flow by 12%. That kind of result usually took months of testing and expensive equipment. Mr. Dale felt both amazed and unsettled. He had built his fortune on innovation and technology, yet this small-town girl had done something no expert could. He decided he had to know more. The next day, he drove back to the same road and found Mira waiting near the fence, holding a small metal piece she had cleaned. She smiled when she saw him. "You came back," she said. "I said I would," he replied, ready to see the workshop. She nodded eagerly. Her mother had allowed it after Mr. Dale explained everything politely. Mira's mother had been surprised too, but trusted him after hearing about the car incident. As they drove, Mira kept asking questions about the car's design, the materials, and even the sound of the tires. Her questions were sharp and simple, yet deep enough to make him think twice before answering. When they reached his company's workshop at the edge of town, her eyes grew wide. Machines of all kinds surrounded the area. Robots, drones, and unfinished vehicles stood everywhere. Engineers walked around with tools and tablets, Mira whispered. "It's like a dream." Mr. Dale smiled. "This is where we make the future." She stepped closer to one of the machines, her hands almost trembling with excitement. She studied a robot arm, noticed a loose wire, and quietly tightened it with a nearby wrench. The arm suddenly started moving smoothly again. One of the engineers turned around in surprise. "Who fixed that?" Mr. Dale pointed toward Mira. "She did." The engineer stared at her, speechless. "That's impossible." "We've been trying to fix it for 2 days," Mira only smiled. "It just needed balance." Mr. Dale looked at her and realized something incredible. This child was no ordinary girl. She had a gift that could not be taught. A natural understanding of machines, a bond between her mind and the mechanical world. That evening, when he dropped her home, she thanked him and said she had fun. He told her he would pick her up again next weekend if her mother agreed. As she waved goodbye, the sun set behind her, painting the sky orange and gold. Mr. Dale watched her for a moment longer, feeling something new inside his heart. It was not just curiosity, it was hope. He had spent years searching for genius in expensive labs, but now he realized true brilliance could come from the most unexpected place. A small girl with a kind heart and hands that could make machines come alive again. He drove away, the Mustang humming smoothly, and he smiled quietly to himself. The road ahead felt brighter than it ever had before. The next morning, Mr. Dale arrived at his company headquarters with a fresh sense of excitement. His office stood tall among shining towers of glass and steel. People moved fast through the halls, carrying tablets and talking about new inventions. But all he could think about was the small girl named Mira, who had fixed his car like a true engineer. He had already told his assistant about her and asked to prepare a visitor pass. The assistant looked surprised when he heard that a 12-year-old would be coming to visit the lab. But Mr. Dale simply said that sometimes true talent hides in small places. Later that week, Mr. Dale drove back to the small town again. The Mustang's engine ran smoother than ever. He stopped in front of Mira's house, a simple brick home with a small garden in front. Mira was sitting on the porch fixing a broken radio. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "You came again," she said happily. "Of course I did," he replied. "I promised to show you my workshop." Mira ran inside to tell her mother. After a short talk, her mother allowed her to go, reminding her to be polite and careful. Mira nodded quickly and climbed into the car. Her backpack was filled with small tools and notebooks. As they drove, Mira looked out the window with bright eyes. She had never been outside her town before. The tall buildings in the distance made her speechless. "Is that your company?" she asked, pointing at the largest one with the silver logo on top. "Yes, that is my company," Mr. Dale said with a smile. "We build new machines to help people live better." Mira's eyes sparkled. "Do you make robots too?" Yes, we do, he replied. We make robots, cars, and even smart homes that can think. She listened carefully to every word. Her excitement grew with each passing mile. When they reached the company gates, the guards looked surprised to see a young girl sitting beside the boss. But Mr. Dale waved them off and drove straight to the main lab building. Inside, the air smelled of metal and electricity. Engineers moved around with safety glasses and gloves. Large machines stood humming quietly in every corner. Mira's mouth opened in wonder. It's like another world, she whispered. Mr. Dale smiled proudly. Yes, this is where ideas come to life. He guided her through the lab, showing her the small robots that could clean, fly, or build things on their own. Mira touched nothing, but her eyes followed every movement of the machines. She noticed small details that most people ignored. Why does that arm move slower than the others? She asked, pointing at a mechanical hand on the assembly line. The engineer standing nearby looked confused. It's a programming issue. We've been trying to fix that all morning. Mira stepped closer. It's not programming. It's mechanical delay. The connector joint has too much resistance. The engineer frowned but checked anyway. After opening the panel, he gasped. She's right. The connector is slightly bent. Mr. Dale looked at her with a mix of surprise and pride. You really have sharp eyes, Mira. She smiled shyly. Machines tell you what's wrong if you listen carefully. They continued walking. Everywhere they went, Mira asked questions that made even experienced engineers stop and think. Her curiosity was endless. She wanted to know how sensors worked, how engines produced power, and why wires were arranged in a certain pattern. Mr. Dale could see that she understood more than she realized. He had met many scientists in his life, but none with such natural instinct. When they entered the testing hall, a group of engineers were gathered around a floating vehicle prototype. It was small but elegant, designed to hover a few inches above the ground. However, it was shaking uncontrollably. We can't stabilize the engine core, one engineer said. It keeps losing balance after 5 seconds. Mr. Dale stepped forward and said, Can we let our young guest take a look? The engineers exchanged glances, unsure if he was serious. But when they saw his expression, they stepped aside. Mira approached slowly. The machine vibrated and made a low hum. She walked around it, watching the lights on the panel. Then she crouched down and listened closely. Can I see the energy graph? She asked. One engineer showed her a screen. The chart displayed wavelines jumping up and down. Mira studied it for a moment and said, You're forcing the magnetic field to stay straight, but it wants to curve. You need to let it breathe. Add a small open channel here. She pointed at the circuit board. Then connect the return coil differently. That will make the energy move like a circle, not a line. The engineers blinked in confusion. That doesn't sound scientific, one said politely, but we can try. They followed her suggestion. As soon as they reconnected the coil, the shaking stopped. The vehicle hovered steadily in the air. The room went silent for a few seconds. Then one engineer whispered, It worked. Everyone looked at her with disbelief. Mr. Dale smiled proudly. You see, gentlemen, sometimes understanding doesn't need big words. Mira giggled softly. It just needed balance. After that, the engineers surrounded her with questions. How did she learn to do this? Who taught her? Mira answered honestly. She said she had always liked to take apart broken toys and machines. She learned by watching how parts moved and felt when they worked together. When the visit ended, Mr. Dale took her to his office. It was large and full of screens showing different parts of the company. On one wall hung a picture of his first invention, a simple robotic arm he had built in his youth. He asked her to sit and said, Mira, you are very special. You have a natural gift. You see things most people can't. Would you like to visit again next weekend and learn more? Her face lit up with joy. Really, I can come again? Of course, he replied warmly. You have a place here as long as you wish to learn. She nodded eagerly. Thank you, Mr. Dale. I want to learn everything about machines. I want to make them kind and helpful. Her words touched his heart. He had met many people who worked for money or fame, but this little girl only cared about learning and helping others. When he dropped her back home, she ran to show her mother the company visitor badge she had kept as a souvenir. Her mother smiled with pride and thanked Mr. Dale for giving her daughter such a chance. That night, Mr. Dale sat in his office looking out at the city lights. He replayed the events of the day in his mind. The engineers were still talking about the girl who fixed the hover engine. They called her the little genius. He opened the company report and saw the data from the test. Her adjustment had not only fixed the issue but improved the power efficiency by 8%. That was something no one in the team had managed to do in months. He leaned back in his chair and whispered to himself, "How does she do it?" He could not explain it. Her understanding went beyond logic. It was as if she could feel how energy wanted to move. It reminded him of how musicians could hear notes that others missed. Mira heard machines the same way. The next morning, he received a message from one of his senior engineers. It said, "Sir, we checked her changes again. The data pattern she created looks like harmonic waves, not random fixes. She's working with a different kind of logic, maybe natural resonance." Mr. Dale read it twice. Natural resonance? That phrase stayed in his mind all day. He remembered how she said machines made sad sounds when they were broken. Maybe she really could hear them. He decided to test her again, but gently. He planned to show her one of their secret projects, a special engine that even his top scientists could not stabilize. It would be the perfect test of her skill. At the same time, he did not want to scare her with pressure. She was still a child who should enjoy learning, not feel like she had to prove anything. That weekend, he called Mira's mother again and asked if she could visit for a full day. Her mother agreed happily, saying that Mira had not stopped talking about the workshop since her first visit. When Mira arrived that Saturday morning, she was carrying her notebook filled with drawings of gears and circuits. She had spent the whole week writing new ideas about how machines could move more naturally. Mr. Dale welcomed her warmly and took her straight to the design hall. He showed her a large engine surrounded by computers and cables. "This is a project my team has been working on for months," he explained. "It doesn't work yet. I want to see what you think." Mira walked around the engine slowly, her eyes focused, her hands hovering near the metal surface without touching it. She closed her eyes for a few seconds as if listening. Then she opened them and said quietly, "It is strong but lonely. The energy is trapped. It needs another path to return." Her words puzzled the engineers watching from behind the glass. Mr. Dale, however, felt a strange chill of curiosity. She spoke in metaphors, but her meaning was clear. She understood the energy flow as if it were alive. He smiled gently and said, "All right, Mira, show us what you mean." She drew a simple circle on a whiteboard and connected 2 arrows between points. "The power goes out here but never finds its way back. That makes it unstable. We just have to give it a return bridge." It sounded too simple to be real, but Mr. Dale nodded to the engineers to try it. They adjusted the wiring according to her drawing. When they powered the engine again, the vibration stopped instantly. The monitor showed a perfect energy balance line. The entire team stared at the screen in silent awe. Mr. Dale looked at Mira, speechless. She had done it again. Mira smiled happily. "Now it feels peaceful." He nodded slowly and said, "Yes, Mira, it does." As the engineers clapped and cheered, Mr. Dale knew this was just the beginning. He had discovered something extraordinary. Not just a talented girl, but a new way of seeing technology itself. The next few weeks brought a quiet but powerful change inside Mr. Dale's company. Every engineer and worker had heard about the young girl who fixed the hovercar engine and balanced the unstable power core. They whispered about her talent, calling her the girl who could talk to machines. Mira began visiting the company every weekend. Each time she arrived, the place seemed to come alive with new energy. The workers smiled more, and even the senior engineers waited eagerly to see what she would discover next. Mr. Dale had given her a small workspace in the corner of the main lab. It had a workbench, tools, and old machines she could explore freely. For Mira, it was like stepping into a dream every time. She spent hours studying gears, motors, and circuits. Sometimes she hummed softly while working, lost in thought. The engineers often gathered near her table just to watch how she handled tools. She never guessed. She observed, listened, and acted carefully. One afternoon, Mr. Dale entered the lab and found her surrounded by 3 engineers. She had opened the control panel of a drone and was drawing small circles on her notebook. The engineers looked both puzzled and impressed. "What are you doing, Mira?" Mr. Dale asked kindly. She looked up with a smile. "This drone shakes when it flies. The signal between its wings is not equal. I'm trying to make a balance chip to help it stay stable in air." Mr. Dale tilted his head. "A balance chip?" "Yes," she said confidently. "A small part that can adjust itself. It will use the energy of motion to stay even without using extra power." He thought for a moment. "That sounds interesting. How do you plan to make it? She opened her small bag and pulled out a few broken circuits she had collected from scrap. I will use these. They are old but still useful. The engineers smiled politely, not expecting much from the broken pieces. Yet 2 hours later, Mira showed them a tiny flat chip made of metal and recycled wires. She connected it to the drone's circuit and asked them to turn it on. When they did, the drone lifted into the air. It wobbled for a second, then steadied itself perfectly. It floated smoothly and did not tilt at all. Everyone stared in silence. Mr. Dale slowly clapped his hands. That's incredible, Mira. You just built an automatic stabilizer from scrap parts. Mira smiled shyly. It just needed a helper to balance. The engineers took notes quickly. The small chip she made could change the way they built all their drones and cars. It was simple, cheap, and powerful. Mr. Dale could already see that her design had value beyond imagination. Over the next days, they tested her chip again and again. It worked every time. It used less power and gave better control than their original system. Mr. Dale called a meeting and asked his team to study her design deeply. During the meeting, he stood before a large screen and said, "This is what innovation looks like. A child who sees machines not as problems but as friends. Her design is simple, but it has something special. It adapts itself like a living thing. I want every department to learn from her approach." The engineers nodded in agreement. They had never felt so inspired. Meanwhile, Mira continued her quiet work. She didn't care about money or attention. She was just happy to create things that worked better. Every time something broke, she wanted to fix it. Every time something worked, she wanted to improve it. Mr. Dale often sat near her workspace just watching her. He noticed that her hands moved with rhythm, almost like she was following music. He asked her one day, "Mira, how do you know what to do when you see a broken machine?" She paused and thought for a moment. It's like hearing a song. Every machine has a sound, even if you can't hear it with your ears. I feel the pattern in my head. If the pattern is broken, I know where to fix it. Her words fascinated him. She didn't talk like a scientist or an engineer. She talked like an artist who painted with circuits and wires. One day, Mr. Dale decided to test her in a more serious way. He brought her to a private section of the company, a large hall where their most advanced project was kept. It was a car that used quantum energy instead of fuel, something no one had yet managed to perfect. The project had been stopped because of constant failures. He led Mira inside and said, "This is something we couldn't finish. It's the most complicated thing we ever tried to build. It should run forever using energy from the air itself, but the engine won't stay stable for more than a few seconds. Would you like to take a look?" Mira nodded with excitement. She walked around the car, her eyes scanning every part. The room was silent except for the soft hum of machines. She touched the side of the car gently, feeling the faint vibration of power still running through the wires. After a while, she looked up and said, "It's too tight. The energy wants to move, but you're holding it too hard. The balance is missing between the two cores. They fight each other instead of working together." Mr. Dale raised his eyebrows. "You can see that just by looking." She nodded. "It's like two friends trying to push a heavy box from opposite sides. They both want to help, but they push against each other. You have to make them move in the same direction." Her simple example made everyone understand. She then asked for a piece of paper and drew a pattern that looked like circles connected by a soft curve. She said, "If you connect them like this, they will share energy instead of fighting." The engineers nearby watched with disbelief, but Mr. Dale told them to try her suggestion. They changed the connections according to her drawing and restarted the system. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the car lights turned on and the energy core began to glow softly. The engine started running smoothly with a clear, steady sound. The readings on the screen showed perfect stability. The room erupted in cheers. It worked better than ever before. Mr. Dale turned to Mira and said, "You just fixed what 100 engineers couldn't solve in a year. Do you realize what you've done?" She looked up and smiled calmly. "I just made it happy." He laughed softly. "Happy," she nodded. "When energy feels balanced, machines become happy. They work better when they're not fighting inside." Mr. Dale stood silent for a moment. Her words were simple, yet they carried deep truth. He felt a strange sense of awe. Maybe she understood something that science had not yet learned, that balance and harmony could exist even inside machines. He thanked her and promised to reward her work, but she shook her head. "I don't need rewards. Just let me come again and fix more things, he smiled. You will always be welcome here. Over the next few days, the company tested the new system again and again. It never failed. Mira's adjustment had made it perfectly stable. The engineers began studying her methods to understand why they worked, but none could fully explain it. Mr. Dale wrote a report calling her discovery harmonic energy flow. It became the foundation for their future research. Soon, other branches of the company began to hear about the mysterious young inventor. At home, Mira continued to live a simple life. She still went to school, helped her mother with chores, and fixed small things for neighbors. She never bragged or told anyone what she was doing at the company. To her, it was just fun and learning, but Mr. Dale could not stop thinking about her gift. He began digging into her background, curious about how someone so young could have such understanding. He found that she had been adopted when she was a baby after an unusual event in her village. That detail stayed in his mind, but he decided not to ask yet. He wanted her to enjoy her childhood and creativity without pressure. One evening, as he stood looking at the quantum car glowing quietly in the testing room, he whispered to himself, "That little girl might change the future of technology." The next day, he saw Mira again in the lab. She was working on another project, a small robotic bird. She smiled and said, "I'm teaching it to fly without losing balance. It needs to learn from the wind, not fight against it." He watched her with deep respect. He realized that what made Mira special was not just her intelligence but her kindness toward everything she touched. She wanted machines to work in peace, just as people should. That night, when the city lights shone bright outside his window, Mr. Dale knew one thing for sure. The world had just met a new kind of genius, not one born from books or science but from pure human wonder. And she was only 12 years old. The sun rose slowly over the quiet town, painting the sky with a soft golden glow. Mr. Dale sat in his office early that morning, long before his team arrived. His thoughts were restless. He kept thinking about Mira and the way she saw the world. Her strange understanding of machines felt almost magical, yet it was more than that. She had fixed problems that trained engineers could not even explain. She never studied advanced science, but she spoke about circuits and energy, as if she could see inside them. Something about her did not fit the normal pattern. Mr. Dale opened his private files and started looking through Mira's background. He wanted to know more, not because he doubted her, but because he felt there was a mystery surrounding her that needed to be understood. Her mother had told him that Mira was adopted when she was just a baby. There was little record about where she came from. The adoption papers said she was found near a village that had suffered a strange incident 12 years ago. That incident had confused scientists for years. Machines all over the area had stopped working for 2 minutes on that day. Every radio, car, and generator had shut down and restarted again as if time had paused. No one ever found out why Mr. Dale leaned back in his chair staring at the ceiling. He could not ignore the link between that event and Mira's birth year. He wondered if something had happened that connected her to that strange energy surge. Could she have been affected by it somehow? Or was she the cause of it? He did not want to believe anything supernatural, but the facts were too unusual to ignore. Later that day, when Mira came to the workshop, she was as cheerful as ever. She greeted the workers, asked questions about new designs, and spent hours improving the new car model. Mr. Dale watched her quietly. She worked with pure focus, her eyes bright and calm. When she touched the machines, they seemed to respond to her. Wires that sparked for others worked perfectly in her hands. It was as if her presence balanced the energy itself. During lunch, Mr. Dale invited Mira and her mother to his office. He offered them tea and spoke gently. He asked Mira about her dreams and how she learned to understand machines so easily. Mira smiled shyly and said she did not really learn it from anyone. She just saw how things were supposed to be. When something felt wrong, she could sense it, like hearing a wrong note in music. She said she sometimes dreamed of patterns and glowing shapes that told her how things worked. Mr. Dale listened carefully. Mira's mother looked surprised, saying she never heard her daughter explain it like that before. She said that sometimes when Mira was very young, lights in the house would flicker when she was upset or excited. They thought it was just bad wiring, but now it sounded like something else. After they left, Mr. Dale decided to speak with a friend who worked in scientific research. He contacted Dr. Rayan, a trusted expert in bioenergy and neural fields. Without revealing too much, He described a young girl who seemed to have a unique link to machines. Dr. Rayon was curious and offered to run some harmless brain scans if they got consent from the mother. A few days later, Mira visited the lab with her mother. She was not afraid, only curious. The scans were gentle and simple, just small sensors placed on her head to read brainwaves. The results shocked everyone. Mira's brainwaves showed patterns that matched energy readings found in certain ancient artifacts discovered years ago in an asteroid crash. Those artifacts had always been mysterious because they gave off harmonic frequencies that no natural element on Earth could produce. Now those same frequencies appeared inside a human mind, Dr. Rayon could not explain it. He said it was impossible but fascinating. He told Mr. Dale privately that Mira's brain might be working on a higher resonance field, allowing her to connect with machines directly through energy balance. It was not telepathy or magic, just a level of harmony between mind and matter that science had never seen before. Mr. Dale listened quietly. He asked Dr. Rayon to keep this information secret for Mira's safety. He feared what might happen if the world found out. Governments, companies, or even scientists might want to study her like an experiment. He could not let that happen. Mira was still a child. She deserved a normal life. When Mira came out of the lab, she smiled and asked if everything was fine. Mr. Dale simply nodded and said she was very special. He told her that she had a gift that could make the world better one day. Mira looked proud but humble. She said she only wanted to fix things so people could be happy. Her words touched him deeply. That night, Mr. Dale stayed awake thinking. He looked out of his office window, watching the city lights far away. He remembered how he used to believe that money and machines defined success. Now this small girl had shown him that true power came from understanding and kindness. He realized he wanted to protect her and help her grow, not just for his company but for humanity itself. The next morning, he began to take small steps to ensure Mira's safety. He ordered his staff to restrict access to her work files. Only a few trusted engineers could see her designs. He also set up a secret trust fund for her education, making sure she could study freely when she was older. He wanted to give her every chance to learn and explore her gift in peace over the next few weeks. Mira continued to surprise everyone. She built a small device that could repair damaged circuits automatically using vibration energy. No one had ever built such a thing. She explained it like it was simple. She said machines could heal if given the right pattern, just like people heal with care. Mr. Dale and his team tested her invention and found it could save millions in repair costs. But more than that, it was proof that Mira's mind worked beyond human limits. She was changing the future without even realizing it. One evening, after everyone left, Mr. Dale walked into the workshop and found Mira sitting alone beside the Mustang she had fixed on the first day they met. She was drawing something on a piece of paper. When he asked what it was, she said she was designing a system that could let cars talk to each other through sound waves. She said it could prevent accidents by making vehicles share awareness like friends do. Mr. Dale smiled and sat beside her. He told her she had the heart of a true inventor. She laughed softly and said she just wanted to make the world a little safer. Then she looked up at the sky through the workshop window and said she often heard a soft hum when the stars were bright. It was like music calling from far away. Mr. Dale felt a strange chill. He asked if she meant she actually heard it. Mira nodded slowly and said it was not sound exactly, more like a feeling in her chest. It made her happy but also curious. She asked if he ever heard it too. He said no, only she could. That moment confirmed everything for him. Whatever energy touched her years ago had connected her to something far beyond Earth. She was a living link between humanity and something greater, something still unknown. But instead of fear, Mr. Dale felt hope. He promised himself that he would protect her secret at all costs. The world was not ready to understand her yet. People might try to control what they could not explain. But one day, when Mira was older and wiser, she would lead humanity into a new age of discovery. As the lights of the workshop flickered softly, Mira smiled and said she wanted to fix one more thing before going home. She walked to a broken drone, placed her hand near it, and within seconds the machine started spinning again. Mr. Dale watched in silence, realizing he was witnessing something extraordinary. Something that could change everything humanity thought it knew. When Mira left with her mother, Mr. Dale stood alone beside the Mustang. He ran his hand over its surface and whispered to himself that he now understood what true wonder looked like. It was not in wealth, power, or machines. It was in a 12-year-old girl who saw harmony where others saw chaos. That night, as he closed his office door, he felt calm for the first time in years. He knew that the world would one day know her name, not as a mystery, but as a symbol of hope and brilliance born from the simplest heart. Mira was the proof that humanity's future was brighter than anyone had ever imagined. Morning sunlight spread across the wide city as preparations began for the grand showcase of Mr. Dale's company. This was not just another business event. It was a moment that would mark a new chapter in human technology. Engineers, reporters, and scientists from across the world had gathered to witness something that could change transportation forever. At the center of it all stood the new Mustang model powered by a quantum energy system designed with the help of Mira. Mira woke up early that day. Her heart was full of excitement and a little nervousness. She looked out the window and saw birds flying freely in the sky. Her mother helped her prepare and smiled proudly. She told Mira that no matter what happened, she should always remember that her heart was pure and her gift was special. Mira nodded and promised she would do her best. At the company building, workers moved quickly to set up displays. The media filled the hall with cameras and bright lights. Mr. Dale stood near the stage, calm but thoughtful. He looked around, remembering how everything had started with one broken Mustang and a young girl who refused to give up. He could not believe how far things had come in such a short time. When Mira arrived wearing a simple white dress with her hair tied back neatly, the workers greeted her with smiles. Many of them had seen her ideas change their projects. They respected her not just for her mind but for her kindness. She thanked each person who wished her luck, then joined Mr. Dale on the stage. The event began with a soft tune playing in the background. Mr. Dale gave a short speech. He spoke about the importance of innovation, about believing in young minds, and about how the future of technology belonged to those who dreamed beyond limits. The audience listened quietly. Then he said there was someone very special who helped make today possible. He turned to Mira and gestured toward her. The crowd began to whisper. Some reporters looked confused. A few smiled. Then Mr. Dale spoke clearly. He said this new Mustang model was powered by an energy system designed by a 12-year-old girl named Mira. The hall fell silent. Everyone turned toward her. Mira looked shyly at the crowd but then smiled. She did not know what to say, so she simply waved. Mr. Dale continued speaking. He explained how Mira had fixed his old car months ago, how her curiosity and ideas had led to discoveries his company never imagined possible. He said that genius had no age and true innovation came from pure imagination. His words filled the room with warmth. Then he invited Mira to press the activation switch for the new car. The crowd watched as Mira stepped forward and touched the glowing switch. The Mustang began to hum softly. Then, to everyone's surprise, it lifted slightly off the ground and hovered smoothly in the air. There was no sound of fuel, no smoke, only silent motion powered by the energy system she had designed. The car moved gracefully across the platform like a dream brought to life. The audience erupted in applause. Reporters stood up, cameras flashing. Some clapped while others shouted questions. Mr. Dale smiled at Mira and whispered that she had just changed the future. Mira smiled back, but her eyes shone with tears of joy. After the presentation ended, people crowded around them. Scientists asked about the system. Engineers wanted details, and reporters wanted interviews. Mr. Dale handled most of the questions, protecting Mira from too much pressure. He explained that this was only the beginning, that they were still studying the potential of this technology, and that it would one day make clean energy available for everyone. Later that evening, when the event was over, Mr. Dale and Mira went to the rooftop of the company building. The city lights shimmered below them. Mira looked up at the stars. She said they seemed brighter tonight. Mr. Dale agreed and thanked her for everything she had done. Mira asked him a quiet question. She asked why the stars made her feel like they were calling her name. She said she could sometimes hear a gentle hum when she looked at the night sky, like soft music whispering from far away. Mr. Dale looked at her carefully. He knew that what she felt was something beyond what science could yet explain. He told her that maybe the stars were simply singing because they were proud of her. Mira laughed softly and said, maybe they were happy that people on Earth were learning to listen again. Mr. Dale thought about the strange readings from her brain, the mysterious energy in her past, and the way she saw harmony in everything. He understood now that Mira was more than just a gifted child. She was a connection between humanity and something greater, something peaceful and beautiful. But instead of fear, he felt hope. He believed that her gift was not something to hide, but something to guide humanity toward understanding and balance. In the following days, the news about Mira spread everywhere. People were amazed to hear that a young girl had helped create such an invention. Many called her a genius, while others were simply inspired by her story. Children began sending letters to the company saying they wanted to learn about science and build things too. Mira read every letter with a smile. She wrote back to some of them, telling them never to stop being curious. Mr. Dale's company became famous not only for its technology, but for its heart. He made sure that every invention they developed after that day followed one rule. It had to help people and protect the planet. He created a special department for young inventors and named it Mira's Lab. It was a place where kids could come and experiment with ideas safely. Mira often visited the lab, helping others and encouraging them. One afternoon, while working in the lab, Mira built a small circular device that gave off a soft hum when activated. She said it helped her think. Mr. Dale asked her what it did exactly. She smiled and said it balanced the air around it so everything felt calm. When he stood near it, he felt peaceful, as if all the noise of the world faded away. He realized that her inventions were not just about machines but about harmony itself. As months passed, Mira continued to grow, learning more and more about science. But she never lost her kindness. She never saw herself as special. She said she only wanted to fix things that were broken. Mr. Dale admired her spirit. She reminded him that progress meant nothing without empathy. One day, while they were testing a new vehicle, a strange light appeared in the sky. It was bright but gentle, like a soft wave of silver. Everyone in the workshop stopped and looked up. Mira stood quietly, her eyes wide. She whispered that it was the same feeling she had when she was little. The light pulsed for a moment and then faded. Mr. Dale asked if she was all right. Mira nodded and said she felt happy. She said it was like someone far away was saying hello. Then she smiled and went back to work as if nothing unusual had happened. Mr. Dale said nothing, but felt sure that whatever connected Mira to that mysterious energy was still watching over her. Years later, people would still talk about that day when the Mustang floated without fuel. They would call it the moment humanity began to understand a new kind of science, one built on harmony rather than control. Scientists would study Mira's designs and learn from her way of seeing the world. She became a symbol of hope for the future, proof that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. Mr. Dale often said that the best thing he ever did was stop his car that day on that quiet road and listen to a small girl who believed she could fix anything. Whenever he saw the Mustang in his garage, he smiled and remembered that it all began with trust, curiosity, and a kind heart. Mira grew up surrounded by love, learning, and endless discovery. But she never forgot where she came from or why she started. She always said that her favorite memory was still that first day when she helped a stranger fix his broken car and changed both their lives forever. One night, much later, she stood again under the stars. The same soft hum filled the air and she closed her eyes. She whispered that she was thankful for her gift, for her mother, and for Mr. Dale who believed in her. Somewhere far above, the stars seemed to shine brighter as if answering her gratitude.